Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Super Mom School Podcast. I'm so delighted that you're joining us this week. I have a special guest this week with us. Her name is Gwendy Hardcastle. She is a wife of 26 years, a mother to 6 living children, a grandma to 2 sweet boys. She's been homeschooling for 21 years. Woo! Big, huge win there. And you have 3 graduates still teaching. And you have quite the story of grief and loss there, as well as trying to figure out how to choose joy and living a happy, fulfilled life. I am so delighted to welcome you, Gwendy, to the podcast. Thank you so much for being on today. Welcome.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you. So I know I just gave everybody a little snippet of who you are, but can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your story to the listeners here? Just share a little bit about what your background is.
Okay. So, let's see. So I got, it was like July of 2000. And so we had a 4-year-old son and a 2.5-year-old son, and I was pregnant with a daughter. Did not know at the time, but a daughter. And I had taken the boys to while I was at a doctor's appointment. And so when I came back from that, I had been told that Micah, our 2.5-year-old, had fallen into the swimming pool and had drowned. And so my husband and I got together. We went to the hospital and just pretty much in shock and just horrible. Not the news you ever want to hear.
Right.
And so just that shock. And I remember on the way there, we were just like, I can't imagine living life without Micah. But so he was in pediatric ICU for 10 days. Doctors just did everything they could, to cool his body so his brain would quit swelling. And we did all the tests and we did all the things. We did the having the worship music going all the time, praying scripture over him, praying over him, having the elders come in and anoint him with oil, and had the little mustard seed, which is really teeny tiny. Yes, I have that much faith. I have that much faith. And I knew the Lord was going to heal him. I so knew he was going to heal him. And July 1st, he died. And so he did not heal him. Our doctor was not necessarily Christian. He was a great doctor, great man, but he wasn't a Christian. I was like, well, this is perfect time for, him to get to know you. And so that didn't happen. And so then then our daughter was born July 11th. So 11 days later, she was born.
Oh my goodness.
So I had gestational diabetes. There was a lot going on with that. So when I went back to the doctor, let's set a date to induce and go ahead and help you out with this.
Okay.
And a couple of things with that. I don't remember a lot of her first year of life, just because I was sad. I was devastated. And so I do know that I sat on the couch, and our 4-year-old son, Seth, he sat up on the beanbag, and we watched PBS Kids. And I'm assuming I held Addie and nursed her and took care of her. And so that's how we spent a lot of our days.
Okay.
A lot of our days.
Yeah.
I was mad at God because
he took my boy away.
Exactly. Yeah. He took our baby away. Yeah, he had messed up. So even that, that song this was one of those popular songs, God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. It was like, no. that was just mad at him.
Yeah.
Which is so I know it sounds so horrible, but he's big enough to handle it.
Right.
And so cool because he was the whole time just like, I know you hate me. I know you're so mad at me, but I'm still here.
Yeah.
It's so precious.
Yeah. I think that's such a good point. Even just for the listeners to realize God can handle our pain. He can handle our mad. He can handle our anger. He can handle, I don't like the way you've asked me to do this. I don't feel like you're showing up for me. All of those pieces. You're so right that if he knows that's what we're thinking anyway. Like we might as well tell him.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not, what are you thinking? Oh, yeah. It's
Right.
not
Yeah. Okay. So let's jump back into the story. So you've spent this year really like it sounds like a little bit of a fog. Like we're just getting through this any way we can, not really
right.
understanding, feeling mad at God.
Yeah.
But here you are. So what next? Tell me about that.
Um, and so let's see. So I don't exactly know when. I know about a year and a half after he died, we moved to where we live now, about 6 hours away. And so that was hard. You know, to leave his, you know,
His
his
place.
yeah, his tombstone marker. Yeah, leave it. We still, you know, we still go there sometimes. But at some point I just started, okay, I need to choose to start living for my other children. And it was a slow process. And I had to get over the guilt of not feeling guilty because I didn't think of Micah today. And I was like, oh, I didn't think of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that guilt of, but he's my child, I should think of him every day. But I didn't. And it slowly got to where that was easier. And I did not have to do that. And the Lord has just really, he's just brought so much healing to my life. I'm a very joyful person. We have a very happy home. I was even talking to my sister last night, and she said, Gwendy, you are such an example of having something so horrible, and you're joyful now. And yes, it was my choice, it was my decision, but it's also what the Lord has done in my life. Yeah. And so like one of the verses, it's Nehemiah 8:9. The joy of the Lord is my strength. And that is so true in my life. And still today, it's one of those, every day I was like, Father, I receive your joy today. I want to walk in your joy today because that's my strength.
Yeah.
That's where I am.
Yeah. I love that. And this might be a little bit of a sidetrack, but don't you think it's true that a lot of times we want to have the strength to then have joy or to feel joy? We want to do something or have God, or experience him in some way that then we experience his joy when in so often it's the other way around. We take hold of his joy and that becomes the strength that we have to do other things. That's what I hear you saying. Is that true?
Yes, it is. Yeah. And you can't describe it. You can't say, well, this is how it works. I just know for me, I choose joy. And from God's life, good. So here's the strength for today, for tomorrow, for, for what I in your life.
Wow. That's amazing. So, all right. So you've decided to choose joy. I'm curious for our listeners, what has helped you choose that joy? What, are there tips and tricks or things that you discovered along the way that really helped you navigate that journey so that you are at a place of joy? I would have to agree and say every time I have seen you or interacted with you, I experienced you as an extremely joyful person. And if I didn't know any of your backstory, I would never guess that you've ever experienced any heartache whatsoever because you have such a natural, joyful disposition. So what helped get you there?
Well, one of those things is at some point I made a decision, and I don't know, it's not like at a certain time, it's like, oh yeah, on this date I made a decision. I don't know when it was, but it was sort of an ongoing decision that I was ready to heal and that I wanted a joyful home. I mean, I had more children, we had 2 living then at the time. And then now, we have 6 living. I did not want them growing up in a home where mama was always sad. She was always thinking of Micah. We never did anything fun. There was no laughter. They didn't deserve that. They deserve to have a happy, wonderful childhood and growing up years. And they deserve to have a mama who was here with them and not in her little world of sadness, but to be intentional with them and to enjoy them. So yes, it was definitely a decision
choice that you make. Yeah.
choice. And sometimes it was an everyday choice.
Oh, certainly. Yeah. It's still an everyday choice, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah,
I'm going to decide to be joyful today.
exactly. It is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what else? That's a great, yeah, a great reminder. I'll back up and say choosing joy, like deciding that we want to be joyful. It's interesting. I think sometimes people do that, or maybe don't realize that there is an element of comfort and satisfaction that we can sometimes get by choosing to be melancholy or stay in that sadness. You mentioned like the guilt from feeling I don't want to forget about him, and then I would imagine that sometimes that sadness can be like, if I don't experience any sort of grief or sadness over him not being here, then I didn't really remember him. And so there's this like tug of war, isn't there, with like, actually there's part of me that longs to stay sad and a part of me that wants. Is that true for you, that there's that tug, or has been?
Yeah. Well, I would say there's always a micro-sized hole in my heart. And there always will be, but that doesn't have to be like this huge gaping wound. It can be one that has found some healing. And so, yeah, so with that is part of it. Another thing is that I've given myself permission to be happy.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not always easy, but to give ourselves permission to live again and to be happy, to be joyful. Because, think of it, if I were to be able to talk to Micah, and that's our son that died, if I would be able to talk to him and say, I'm so sorry that I'm just happy, and are you okay with that? I don't see him saying, no, Mom, I really think you should still be very sad and you should be focusing on me not being there with you. And he would say, no, I'm not here. I'm in a better place. I am happy. I am great. You live your life, and you've got, my siblings, they need to be happy. Yes, you live that life. And yes, I want you to be happy.
Yeah.
So,
That's such a great picture of asking him what would he say, and sort of like, okay, I have permission to be happy. How does that play out, like in a practical, like if things are like going off the rails on a particular day and you think to yourself, I have permission to be happy. How does that play out in a practical sense in a day? Can you give me an example of what that would look like?
that is a good question. Let's see. Just knowing that, I can look at his pictures. Well, a good example would be like on his birthday, and he has a death date. On those days, I read those days. If February 11th, we could just skip over that day, and July 1st, we could skip over that. Then my year would be fine, or be much better. And it got to the point to where it's like, I'm going to rejoice on those days. So his birthday, we remember his birth, and we remember his life. We focus on that. And the same thing on his death date. It's that focusing on his life even, and all the memories we have, and just being able to laugh and enjoy that, instead of being like, well, he's not here, or he's, missing him, or
it has to be somber. Yeah.
In mind here, I think that because I don't remember a lot of the funeral and kind of stuff, I think that's actually helpful, because then I don't have to remember that sad part.
Wow.
But
yeah.
That is nice. I had not thought about that until just now. So
yeah, that's good. And that's a great example of permission for joy, like taking even those hardest days and saying, I have permission to have joy on these days. What is that going to look like for our family? And then planning what you're going to talk about, what you're going to do from that place. That's a great example. Yeah.
You have to have cake. You got to have a birthday.
Cake and ice cream. That's awesome. Yeah. So what else? Any other things that you really feel like have helped you along the way?
Another thing, just to kind of remember that it's a process. I think it's so easy just to be like, okay, make a decision that I want to heal, and so boom, I'm healed. We're so instant society kind of a thing, but it's not. It's a process. Just like the grief is a process. I went from not remembering anything to, okay, finally to where, okay, I could actually cook dinner kind of a, thing. Same thing, healing is a process. And it's like we said, it's that daily choosing. Okay, today I'm going to choose life again. I'm going to choose joy, and then giving myself grace when that doesn't happen. If I have a setback, if I have a sad moment, to sit in it. It's okay. I can still cry. I can still be sad about him. I can still share his story and tear up, but I don't have to stay there in a cycle of sad and crying and miserable, and it just becomes a horrible day. So it is just that process, and just giving ourselves that grace to go, it may not have been the best day today, but I got tomorrow. And tomorrow I'm going to continue to choose life again and choose joy. And so that's been good. Another verse, the Psalm 35, the weeping may endure for a night, but joy, that rejoicing, that shout of joy comes in the morning. I just love that promise. Not that, it's not that little night and day. It's that season of sadness or despair, but gloom and, just kind of a yuck. But that there is that joy coming in the morning, and to be able to focus on that.
I love that vision of how it's a process, seasons. And my guess, and you tell me if this happens for you, but it seems like that grieving process, my guess would be it still happens sometimes. Like you think of something and it's like, oh, there it is all over again. And allowing yourself the grace to sort of go through those moments even now. I wonder if it helps recover quicker just because you're graceful, allow it to happen and then move through it and come back. Surely you still have those moments today.
Yeah, I think they're more few and far between now. There are still those times, those times, but not too much.
Yeah. But it's part of that process.
It is part of.
Yeah. Wow. Cool.
So, yeah.
Nice. So what else?
Well, another thing is that don't need to compare ourselves to others, because just like everybody's life journey is different, that the grieving and healing process is different. I mean, my husband, he grieved very differently from me. He was back in work, and then I don't know, 3-4 weeks, and I didn't do anything for a year. And so not comparing to, well, why is he already happy and why am I still sad? And it's not that he wasn't happy. We just grieved different ways. And just knowing that I can't look at somebody else to say, well, why have they already moved on? Or, boy, they sure are moving on fast. You've heard, people.
Yeah, right.
Really, he's already married again after, we judge and we compare people, which different people have different,
Right. Or the other way, like he died 8 years ago. It's time. Come on. What's the holdup? You're right. It's so different for people, and the comparison can really get in the way of the process, it seems like. Yeah.
And it's everyone's choice. You really have the choice if you want to continue to be sad and live your life that way. That's a choice, or you can choose to find joy.
Yeah.
You can.
Well, and freedom of choice. Freedom of choice is one of the basic elements of the gospel, isn't it? Like you're free to choose whatever life or death, Jesus or not. That's we get to choose that joy or to stay in sorrow. That's very true.
Cool. I definitely choose the joy part.
Yes.
It's better. I just highly encourage that. It's much better.
Right. It reminds me of that passage in Deuteronomy where Moses is like giving the law from God, and he's like, now if you choose what he asks us to do, here's all the benefits, and if you don't, here's all the negative. And then later on he says, behold, I put before you the blessing and the cursing. Choose life that you and your family and descendants may live. Like, here's the two choices. We recommend this one. That's what I think of as choosing joy for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So much blessing there.
It is a good one. So it is good.
Cool.
And I think maybe also another thing is just kind of know that there will be unexpected things. Like an example, when I was pregnant with our second daughter, about 2.5 years after Micah had died, I was pregnant with our second daughter. And I kind of thought, oh, I wonder if I'm going to be okay with this pregnancy, have to deal with grief, kind of anything. And I was fine with the pregnancy. I had to work through fear and concern for our two-year-old daughter at that time.
Right, because she's
that because my brain's like, last time you were pregnant, that child that age died. So you have to be very cautious and so I was very protective over her and just, making sure that she was okay all the time. And that was not a good way to live either. But that was so interesting. So had I known about life coaching, then I definitely would have checked into a life coach, because I was like, I need some help, but this is crazy. I I gotta take care of this little girl. And that was such an interesting thing to me. Just an area that I never even thought that would happen. Now, other pregnancies I've been fine with all the other kiddos, but it was just that one. So it's just an interesting thing just to kind of be aware. We don't know really what we're going to have to, work through, but it is, and work through it, and definitely have somebody to support you and help you along the way is so much easier than doing it on your own.
Right. Oh my goodness. Yes. Yeah. Well, you're right. I think when something traumatic happens that way, I think all of us naturally go to, how can I arrange my life so that nothing ever bad happens again? Right. That's our normal default. But there's not really any way to completely defend ourselves against every unexpected or painful, even potential situation. So, and you're right, they do kind of surprise us, come out from nowhere. Like, whoa, I didn't know I was going to be bothered quite so much by that. Yeah,
exactly.
So that one kind of surprised you. You had 4 kids by then, or 3 living, and then Micah had passed away. Okay. Yeah. And then you had 3 others, is that right?
And so we have 6 living, who have 7 children.
Okay.
So,
7 children. Yeah. Okay.
And so that was another thing that I had to work with. How will I not forget Micah? How will I not negate his life? That was so, it is such an important part, and not say, and when you start saying, well, I have 7 children. Oh, how old are they? Well, and then you have to figure out, okay, how do I say, well, one's still 2.5, then you have to, people are like, oh, I'm so sorry. And so it's like, if I say 6 living children, then
the way of honoring him.
Yeah. And I start honoring them. And then some people will go, oh, okay. Most people are just like, oh, okay. And some will go, what do you mean by 6 living? What does that mean? And so those are the ones I get to share with. And then that's not me always having to bring it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was one of the ways for myself that I got to where, how can I not have to bring it up? Because, this was when I was still kind of raw, within, and now I don't even think about it anymore. Now it just comes out, 6 living children. And so.
Yeah. And I think that's a beautiful example of how you want to remember him. You want him to still be acknowledged as part of your family. And at the same time, you don't really want that event and his death to take over every single conversation that you have, and that become like, this is the topic of conversation again. Not that it's bad to talk about him, but just my guess is that you like talking about other things too, besides just that story. Yeah, that makes sense. That's a great way to phrase it, 6 living children, and I think gives the rest of us, those of us who haven't lost a child, a little bit of insight. There's other people that have said that to me, and to be, that curiosity of, oh, there's something behind that, and could be a little curious about that story, because I'm sure you do love to talk about him, I would guess, and like tell people about him. Yeah,
most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
So you mentioned life coaching a couple of times. When did you discover coaching, and how has that helped you um, in your journey?
So I discovered life coaching. I went to a conference September of 2019,
Okay.
and it was presented, as a, kind of a year-long training to be involved in. And so I was really doing, it was actually was I wasn't going to, it was in San Diego, and I live in Texas, and I was not going to go because it was too far. And
Okay.
about a month for the event, the Lord's like, yes, you need to go. And I was like, why did you not tell me that when there was like the buy one, get one free ticket so I could go with me? And
Right.
there were no friends who were available to go this short a notice. And so that
Mm,
was a huge, huge step for me
I
to
bet.
go that far by myself. I didn't, found a hotel with people I didn't even know. And anyway, so a lot of that. And so when this offer was presented, I'm one of those, I was standing up on stage thinking, how did I just get up here on this
What
stage?
have
Because
I done?
I should be sitting down there. This is not, it was kind of like, and so really, I didn't actually know what life coaching was. We had our first meeting, and um, a lady leading it, she said, okay, if I want to do life coaching. And it went through everybody's like, yes, yes, yes. And I thought, well, I'm going to do it too. I don't know what it is. So really, I didn't even know what life coaching is when I signed up for it, because I was just signing up for the year long inner
Like
circle.
coaching mentorship thing.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
hilarious. Wow. How did that work out for you?
You know, it has been amazing.
Mm,
Really, Lord did so much healing in my life. We were an event, like a marketing and sales event, and the Lord just had brought so much healing in my life at that point. Just stuff that I thought He had already healed, but so much so that I I just sat there and I laughed, like
mm,
deep laughter, uncontrollable. I mean, she's going on talking and I'm just laughing. I really kind of got embarrassed, but I couldn't stop. It was just, and so that is a huge thing that I know life coaching has done for me, is just, it's actually helped me be able to see these things that I've been sharing today. I just kind of thought I was just kind of doing my thing, and I didn't realize that, you know, I was working with my brain through all of this and working through my thoughts.
mm.
I was choosing joy because that's what the Bible says.
Yeah.
And I realized that so much of it, that it was my thoughts that I've been working through. And so just, I know the healing that the Lord has brought to my life through life coaching, and then just be able to share with others and to kind of help them too.
It sounds like some of the value of it was putting language around what God had already done in your life and what He was currently doing in a way that was like, now you can articulate it to other people and use your testimony for His glory and to help others now. Is that,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a great way. Yes.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So you are life coaching now, right? Yeah. So tell me about that. Is there, for the listeners, if your story is really resonating with them, I know we have listeners that have gone through loss, like what you're talking about, and if they're interested in getting some help, how could they get in touch with you? What, or how could you help them?
So, well, I think there's so many areas of grief. Just one thing, I'm talking about, losing a child, but there's so many areas of grief. It's not just a child. It could, we talked about a spouse, or, a parent, a sibling. It can be so much, even the loss of those, a wayward child,
Hmm.
uh, those unfulfilled expectations that we have, oh, I still want to be married by now and I'm not married, or I was married and now I've gone through a divorce. There's just so many things where we have experienced that grief and that loss that we all, because I think most people have experienced some form of something. It may not, be the death of a child, but there's so many other ways and or things that we've experienced that we all can choose joy daily. We
Yeah.
all have choose healing at some point over something, or we can stay in it, or we can kind of push it down and just kind of leave it there and not, just kind of, that's a part of my life I don't talk about, or but it still is affecting us.
Right.
And So, do we want the healing in that area? And so yeah, that would definitely be something, just helping, not usually help women who, we're like, I am ready to kind of move on, not in a forgetting way. One of the things I, kind of remember is that Micah is actually in my past. He is, and I got to experience his full life, which is really cool as a mom, because you don't really get to say that, because
that's
children,
not a normal thing people can say. Yeah.
So yes, I got to experience his whole life of 2.5 years. And, we kind of think, oh, well, that's a short life, but it's the life that God had ordained for him. So it's his full life, even though
entirety. Yeah.
Yeah. And so yes, he's in my past, but he's also in my future, which is just there's that hope there because of Jesus that I get to see him someday.
Yeah.
And so as get to that point to where people are ready to heal and they're ready to start. Okay, I want to try this living life again. I want to choose joy. I'm tired of being sad. I don't want my children to have a sad mother, to have have stressed out, anxious, whatever's going on, that hidden thing that we tuck down in there, that healing. And so, and it can be really good. So it can be used to help other people even.
That's beautiful. And so that's something that you help other people do, is like, if they want that help, they can come to you and get that kind of help. Okay. So how would they do that? What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Well, you can, I have a link tree.
Okay.
/GwendyHardcastle.
All right. We'll make sure that that's in the show notes for people, so that if they want that resource, they can go click that link. Yeah.
Set up a time and we can talk and see if life coaching is,
that's awesome.
And that they need.
Yeah. Well, your joy is contagious, Gwendy, I have to say. And so I do think, like, if that's something that you as a listener are looking for, you're looking to experience joy, I can guarantee you, you're gonna find it working with Gwendy. So we'll make sure that your contact information is over there. Gwendy, just to wrap up, I'm curious, I like to ask a lot of the people that come on the show, what do you wish people would ask about this topic of loss or grief that maybe they don't think to ask or don't know to ask, but that might be one of the most helpful, or a helpful thing that they don't really know is available, or that they don't really know would be helpful until they get into it? Any thoughts?
So I know one of the things, if you have lost a child, or if you have a friend, or someone that has, I know for me, just that keeping their memory alive, being asked about that, being asked about your child is so good. It can be hard because we go, I don't know what to say. But, when a grandparent dies, we talk about our grandparents. Oh yeah, that was grandma's, lamp. And this was, grandpa's whatever. We talk about our grandparents, and it's like, think, well, they lived a full life, so it's okay to talk about them. Well, our children have lived a full life, even though it's not the number you think. Yeah. And so we still want to talk about them. And, we may cry and it may make us sad, but we don't want them to be forgotten.
Yeah.
And so when we don't know those words to say, because it is hard. I mean, if you have had hurt someone who has buried a child, it is very hard. You don't know what to say. Definitely don't say, oh, I know what you're going through. My grandmother died. That's what we had somebody tell us. And it was like, I don't think it's the same.
I don't think you do.
Don't say that. That is not something to say.
That's such evidence of somebody who doesn't know what to say, right? It's like they didn't know what to say. This is the best they got.
A couple of that you don't have to say anything. You just to be there. That's a huge thing, just to be there, because really life goes on for everybody else and yours stops. And then you have new normal you have to figure out, and you're looking around, it's like everybody else has, moved on, and I'm not, I'm stuck here.
Mhm.
So just letting that person know, letting that mom know, I'm here. Even if I just bring you a meal and I just sit and talk or just sit and not say
Listen to stories or yeah.
so.
Yeah. That's
But
a
just,
good point.
yeah. So
Be
to be,
sensitive. Yeah. I love that comparison because you're right. We do talk about our grandparents or like that kind of thing. We, remember different people in different ways, but you're right. When somebody loses a child, it's like, I, I don't know what to say. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you for that encouragement. I think that'll be a real benefit to people to like, yeah, just tell us about him.
yeah.
And that's a great tip. Well, Gwendy, thank you. What?
I was like, yeah, just what's a great memory that you have, or, just something. Yeah.
That's cool. Well, Gwendy, thank you so much for coming on and talking about Micah, telling us a little bit about his story and how it's impacted your life. I'm thrilled for the opportunity for people to get to know you and reach out for coaching for themselves. I hope if you're a listener that you'll go check her out. She's amazing. And so thank you, Gwendy. Thank you for being on today on the show. Appreciate it. All right. We'll see you next time.